Welcome to our introduction to the enterprise software system. This is a web-based system that requires access through your web browser. You will be provided with a URL to log in. In this case, we use simplicitydigital.vgsonline.com. Adding the /manager is optional. It's going to pick it up automatically anyways. The main thing that you need to remember is that you will require your login name and your password. Otherwise, you won't be able to access the system. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just type in our training login, our password, and then just click the connection button. Next, we have access to the entire software. You can notice there are multiple windows that make up the user interface. The windows are from the left, the player, and this would be the player and groups window. This is where you'll see the list of all of your players, how they're deployed, the name of the different stations or locations where they're set up. And when we talk about players, it's important to remember that we're talking about the devices themselves that are used to play back the content. So that would be either a PC device or an Android device that would be attached to the system, to the screen, in order to display the information that we're pushing. So that is basically what you'll find in the player window. To the right, you have the content library window. So this is where templates would appear, also any content that you upload, whether it be videos or also images. So that is the content library. To the right, we have the playlist window. This is where we have the list of all of the items that are going to be playing. It's important to understand that with our system, it's playlists that get scheduled and not individual content. So we create playlists. In this case, I have a Delhi morning playlist. I have a Delhi afternoon playlist. So inside each one of these, I have multiple menus that would play in succession. If I only want to have a single menu appear for a given period of time, I would just have one item in that playlist. Now we can have as many playlists as we want. We also are not restricted by using the same playlist every morning for every day. For example, you could have a Monday morning playlist or schedule, and the same thing would happen on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. So we could change the menu every day if that's what you're looking for. So there is no restriction. You could have a morning, midday, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, evening programming, so it's really up to you and your respective needs. Now, the other window that we don't always see is the update player window. In order to bring that one up, we have to click the arrow on the left called Update. So the update player window is where we will select the players that we want to send the updates to, and then we just click the Send Update button, and we're just pushing the updates directly to the player at this point. We would get there when it's time to send new information. If there's any changes in content, if there are any changes to your scheduling, you would be required to push an update to your players. Now in this case, you could see that the update has gone through and one player lists that it's received the information. The status on the other player is showing as still running at 0%. So this particular player is not receiving any information right now, and here's why. When you look in the player window under the Management tab, you will notice that some players may show a different color next to the name of the player itself. That color is representative of the status of that player. So in this case, this Dell Venue tablet player is not turned on. It's not online, so we're not getting a heartbeat. That's why it's showing a red status. Now, whenever that player would be turned back on, the status would change to blue. Blue means that we are communicating correctly with the player. We're getting a signal back, and so we're able to send updates to that player. Now, it's possible that a player is not online, but still turned on and is currently playing content. So that's important also to remember. The other color that you may see for the status would be yellow. And yellow simply indicates that there might have been an issue, such as perhaps an issue downloading some content, maybe some content was corrupt, or perhaps there was no schedule, and so there's nothing to play right now. So when these types of events happen, you'll see the color change to yellow, just to indicate that the system is coping with the issue. We're not trying to play anything that is not playable, but we're just letting you know that there was an event, and so you can get more information if you want from the system. In order to get that information, you would click the Monitoring tab. So switching to the monitoring window and selecting the players will provide additional information as to what's going on right now. If at any time you would have a yellow status, you may see a number in the alert column, which would refer simply to the number of times that we've detected whatever error or situation has come up. And all you have to do at that point is just click anywhere along this line to open the Alert and Events window. So this is simply a table, so if we had any errors, any issues, they would all be listed in this table, and you'd be able to take remedial action, figure out exactly what's going on, delete whatever content is not currently working for you, or simply add more programming in order to have content playing on your screens. So to back out of this, simply click OK and click back to management to go back to the regular viewing. Now it's important also to understand the way that the system works as far as the hierarchy. We always have a group which would be named according to your brand or your company name, and then we'll have subgroups that are going to be listed below. The subgroups would be the name of a station or the name of a location if it's a specific restaurant, for example. So in this case, the top level is always going to be where all of the shared information is going to be. So if we have any content that we want to use in both the deli station and the grill station, instead of uploading it twice under each subgroup, we would upload it once at the upper level. So in this case, we would select my brand company name, right click, select new, select media, upload your new content, and then you can use it in both deli station and grill station. If I wanted to use content just for deli station, then I simply select that station, and you can see that under content now, it's the deli station that's now identified. So any content that gets uploaded is only going to be used at that single location. It's not meant for the others, basically. The same thing happens with playlists. We can create playlists that are going to be shareable. So if I select the top level again, and if I select it also under playlist, you'll notice that the playlists now are all of the ones that are created at this level, and they are usable in deli station, grill station, and any other station that I would configure. So in this case, what would happen if I were to use one of these top level playlists would be that changes made to those playlists would be reflected in every station where they are used. If I'm simply using programming for independent locations or stations, then only those specific stations would be affected. So if I create a deli morning and a deli afternoon playlist, I can delete content, whether it's local or global content. So in this case, if I look for a template and I just drag and drop it, it's only for the deli station, and it's only for the deli station afternoon playlist. If I were using a global playlist, then if I make a change there, everywhere that playlist is being used would receive that change. And remember that the changes do not happen until you actually push an update using the update window over here. So in this case, if I just select this one station now and I want to push the update, that would be the only station that would be receiving that information. So just to go back and look at how we can bring in content at this point, the first step is always to figure out, am I bringing in content that's going to be used in multiple locations, or is it going to be used just at a single location? If it's going to be used at multiple locations, select the top level, right click, select new, and then you could select what type of content you want to add. If you're talking about media, we're talking very specifically about media files. So these would be either images, videos, flash animations. We can also display a web page, and you would be selecting URL for that purpose. If you wanted to build a template, then you would select the template option. We can also manage video streams and TV feeds if your system is equipped to display that kind of information. But most of the time, you're probably going to be working with media or templates. So let's take a look at how we'd add a new image to our system right now. So I just go up, I select my pictures. So I'm looking right now at my local system. I just pick any content that I want to add, and I could simply select that item, click open, and the content is automatically uploaded to the system. So in this case, we know that this is an image. It's a PNG type of file. We will also track who's the person that's actually uploading the content, the date, the time, the size of the content. So a lot of technical information is actually being gathered. The one thing that you have to remember is that if you're dealing with static images, you can actually go in and you can change the duration. By default, the duration of all static images will be 7 seconds. So if you wanted to change this, you simply highlight the 7 seconds, change it to 10, or use the small arrows to increment or decrease the duration manually. There's one more thing that you may want to do if you're dealing with images. Under playback, you can select the transitioning. So in this case, what I can do is I can say, I want this image to have a certain effect each time that it's going to be displayed on screen. So you can select from fades, slide effects, wipes, a zoom, and also you can select a random effect, which simply means that every time we're going to display the content, we're going to use a different effect. One more thing that's very important, and this applies to any type of content like files that would be images, videos, or flash. You can actually preload content in advance, meaning that I can upload the content today but not have it display before a certain time period in the future. Now it's important to remember that while we're doing this, we will still have to add that content to a playlist that is going to be scheduled. So this is just a rule that's going to apply, that's going to manage how this content is going to be played when it's time to play it. So the first thing you notice is that in the validity period area, it's all blank, which means that the content is always valid. So if I take this piece of media and I put it inside of a playlist, that media will start playing according to the schedule. If the playlist is scheduled, it's going to play. So if I right click and I select add, now I can actually specify when this content will become live. And I can also decide when I want this content to expire. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll put in August so that the content will start becoming live on August the 1st. And then I just pick the date that I want it to expire. Now, by selecting August the 31st, it's important to remember that it will expire on the 31st at midnight unless you change other settings. So by default, it's basically 24 hours a day during that full month. So now if I click OK, my new map that I've just uploaded here, and this could be any graphic that you want, you just take it and drag it into any playlist that is scheduled. And now what's going to happen is that until we get to this, August 1st, that content will be ignored as part of the playlist. Starting on August 1st, that content will start playing. And if we leave that content in the playlist past the 31st, the content will simply stop playing altogether. If you want it to start playing again, you'll have to go back, double click on that item, and then look under validity, either right click and delete the validity period that you've programmed, or extend the end date further into the future. Now, there are other things that we can do here. For example, we can right click on any validity period that's been programmed and look at the properties. So in this case, instead of looking at a 24-hour a day validity period, we could say this is only going to be playable on specific days of the week for specific periods of time. So maybe I just want to play this between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. So if I were to click OK, now not only is the period going to be just for the month of August, but it will play only on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday between 8 and 9, as long as it's assigned to a playlist that is scheduled during the morning period. And if it's still scheduled for the rest of the week, then it's simply not going to show up at all. It's going to be ignored on those days. And you can configure this any way you want. For example, we can go in and just right click and select new, and we can just keep adding more rules just to meet whatever requirements we may have. So in this case here, if I wanted to have this only playable between 8 and 9 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and between 2 p.m. and let's say 4 p.m. on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's how I would set this up. But always remember that what we're doing here in the validity period is simply adding a rule to this content if it is actually added to playlists that are scheduled. So when we're done, we just click OK, and then we click OK again. Now, it's also important if you have, let's say, an event that is occurring every first week of the month, you can just keep right-clicking and adding more validity period, create one for every month that will simply cover the first week of the month. And that way, the content will simply come back alive for the first week only. So this will also work for templates. And that's going to be kind of interesting because when we start looking at templates in another session, we'll be able to look at, combining different types of content together to achieve very specific kind of layouts and looks. So when we're finished, we just click OK. And now that content is ready to use. The validity has been defined. The content has been added to the playlist. And if we want to make this change live, we click Update, select the players, click Send Update, and at this point the changes that we've done have been sent and are now being hosted on the players and are ready to go.